Welcome back to the sanctuary of storytelling, the only place where we look past the headlines to find the human heart beating underneath. You are watching Whatever You Need, and tonight, we have a story that has redefined what loyalty looks like in the modern age. We are gathered here to dissect a night that began with a landing gear touching the tarmac and ended with a nation holding its breath. Before we step into the corridors of that hospital, please make sure you are subscribed to our channel. If you appreciate the depth, the detail, and the passion we put into these narratives, do not forget to click the join button below. Your support is the lifeline that keeps us independent and fearless. Now fasten your seatbelts because we are going back to the moment everything changed. It was supposed to be a triumphant return. Gökberk Demirci, a man whose name has become synonymous with quiet strength and brooding charisma, had just touched down in Istanbul. He was returning from an international project, the kind of career-defining work that usually warrants a champagne toast and a slow, victorious walk through the arrivals hall. The cabin pressure had normalized, the seatbelt signs had flickered off, and the hum of the engines was dying down. But the tranquility of that landing was about to be shattered with the violence of a lightning bolt striking a calm sea. The plane hadn't even finished emptying its passengers when his phone vibrated, a sound so mundane, yet in this instance, it was the bell tolling for a crisis. It was an unexpected call. The voice on the other end was agitated, breathless, carrying the jagged edges of panic. The news was delivered without preamble, a sentence that hit him harder than any physical blow. Özge Yağız, the woman with whom he has shared screens, whispered rumors, and a complicity so deep it doesn't need words, had been rushed to the hospital. A sudden condition. Undefined symptoms. A collapse. Witnesses who were standing near the baggage claim describe a transformation that was almost terrifying to behold. In the blink of an eye, the Gökberk Demirci we know, the man of elegant calm, the actor who moves with a deliberate, slow grace, vanished. In his place stood a man possessed by a singular, terrifying focus. His face hardened, the color draining away to leave a mask of pure concentration. It was as if he had been struck by an invisible fist, yet instead of falling, he mobilized. The suitcase, the airport protocol, the waiting fans, the polite nods to customs officers, everything that constitutes the social contract of a celebrity dissolved into irrelevance. He turned on his heels, his movement sharp and decisive, and launched into an impromptu sprint. This was not a jog, this was a run born of desperation. His assistant, caught completely off guard by this sudden explosion of kinetic energy, scrambled to keep up, trailing behind like a shadow trying to reattach itself to a body moving too fast. To the outside observer, the scene was cinematic in its raw intensity. Here was one of the country's most recognizable faces, tearing through the international terminal with zero regard for the optics. He didn't care if his hair was disheveled. He didn't care if the cameras caught the fear in his eyes. He didn't care about the whispers that started rippling through the crowd. As he burst through the automatic sliding doors, meeting the cold Istanbul air, his voice cracked like a whip, cutting through the noise of the taxi rank. "Take me to the hospital right now," he commanded his driver. There was no hesitation, no second guessing. He threw himself into the back seat, phone still glued to his ear, his knuckles white as he gripped the device, trying to piece together a fragmented reality from information no one seemed to have. The drive to the hospital was not a commute, it was a journey suspended in a purgatory of asphalt and anxiety. Those close to the actor, who have seen him weather career storms and personal losses, say they have rarely seen him so utterly distraught. The car became a pressure cooker. Inside, the air was thick with unasked questions. Gökberk alternated between firing rapid, urgent questions into the phone and sinking into long, heavy silences where his breathing seemed to take up more space than his physical form. Outside the tinted windows, the city of Istanbul was reduced to a blur of streaking lights. Red taillights looking like warning flares, street lamps passing like ghosts. He wasn't seeing the Bosphorus or the skyline, he was seeing her face. The updates he received were torture in their vagueness. She arrived exhausted. Doctors are running tests. No diagnosis yet. Every sentence was a dead end. The driver, sensing the magnitude of the moment, pushed the vehicle to its limits. Every red traffic light felt like a personal insult, an unfair barrier erected by fate. Every detour felt like an enemy combatant. In those agonizing minutes, Gökberk stripped away every layer of his identity. He wasn't a star. He wasn't a public figure. He was simply a man racing against time to reach the person who mattered most. By the time the black sedan screeched to a halt in front of the emergency room, the atmosphere had shifted from urgency to spectacle. In the digital age, news travels faster than light, and the rumor of Özge's hospitalization had already spread like wildfire. A small army of journalists, paparazzi, and curious onlookers had begun to form a perimeter around the entrance. Flashbulbs popped in the darkness, creating a disorienting stroboscopic effect. Gökberk stepped out of the car and walked straight into the blinding lights. But here is the detail that defines him: he didn't blink. He didn't acknowledge them. He walked through the chaos as if he were in a different dimension, his eyes locked on the sliding glass doors of the hospital. He marched to the reception desk with a purpose that silenced the room. "Where is Özge Yağız?" It wasn't a request, it was a demand for his compass. The cameras outside captured the tension etched into the lines of his face, the sheer, unvarnished concern he made no attempt to mask. Hospital staff, recognizing the volatility of the situation, quickly ushered him into a private area, away from the prying eyes of the lobby. But privacy did not bring clarity. There were no immediate answers, no doctors with clipboards ready to explain everything. There was only that dreaded, ambiguous phrase meant to soothe, but designed to terrify: "Tests are underway." He was left in a waiting room that smelled of antiseptic and fear, armed with nothing but his own racing thoughts. I need to pause for a moment and ask you, the whatever you need family, have you ever had to wait for news like this? That helpless feeling where minutes feel like hours. If you have, you know exactly what Gökberk was feeling in that room. Let us send our best wishes to Özge in the comments below. And remember, if you want to support our deep dive journalism, hitting that join button makes you a pillar of this community. While Gökberk sat in the crushing silence of a sterile corridor, the world outside was exploding. The lack of concrete information acted as gasoline for the internet. Within hours, the names Gökberk and Özge were trending globally. The phrase "Gökberk didn't leave Özge alone" became a mantra, retweeted and shared hundreds of thousands of times. It was a phenomenon. Fans turned into forensic analysts. They began excavating the past, digging up old interviews, zooming in on knowing glances from award ceremonies, and reinterpreting every interaction they had ever shared. What started as genuine concern for an actress's health mutated into a massive discourse on love and loyalty. Are they just friends? The tweets asked. Or is this the proof we have been waiting for? The narrative shifted from medical emergency to romantic epic in real time. The emotional tension inside that hospital room was resonating through the fiber optic cables of the world, connecting millions of strangers in a shared vigil. Inside the eye of the storm, Gökberk chose the most powerful strategy available: absolute silence. He didn't tweet. He didn't post a cryptic Instagram story. He didn't send a representative out to give a statement. He simply existed in that space with her. This silence was deafening. In an industry where oversharing is the currency, his refusal to engage with the circus outside made the moment feel sacred. It fueled the followers even more. His silence was interpreted as devotion. The hospital corridors bore witness to a vigil that lasted through the darkest hours of the night. Sources whisper that Özge had been feeling the onset of this illness for hours, an unusual, crushing fatigue, and a persistent pain that she initially tried to ignore. Her decision to come to the hospital was a last resort, a surrender to the body's warning signs. Doctors, thorough and cautious, kept her under strict observation, running a battery of comprehensive tests to rule out the worst-case scenarios. Gradually, the frenetic energy of the night began to wane. The paparazzi outside grew tired, the flashing lights dimmed, and the hospital settled into its early morning rhythm of hushed voices and beeping monitors. But Gökberk did not leave. He moved only when instructed by medical staff, pacing the floor, sitting, then standing again. Then came the moment. Witnesses, nurses, orderlies, people who pass through these rooms like ghosts, say that when he was finally allowed to see her, the physical change in him was instantaneous. The tension that had held his shoulders in a vice grip seemed to evaporate. There are no photos of this moment. No leaked videos. And perhaps that is why it remains so precious in the collective imagination of the fans. It belongs only to them. But the consensus is clear. The tranquility he felt upon seeing her alive, awake, and safe transformed the atmosphere of the room. It was the calm after the hurricane. This night has done something irreversible to the public perception of Gökberk Demirci and Özge Yağız. For months, audiences have been analyzing their dynamic, looking for cracks in the facade or slips of the tongue. But in an environment where everything is performative, where every smile is calculated for engagement, the raw authenticity of Gökberk's sprint across the city cut through the noise. It provoked a massive, visceral reaction because it was real. Fans pieced the narrative together from scraps: a blurry video of him exiting the airport, a witness account of the car speeding away, the look on his face in the emergency room. Each piece reinforced a story that is no longer about a TV show or a PR stunt. It is about humanity. It is about the fact that when the script ends and the lights go out, and reality sets in with all its terrifying unpredictability, the masks fall away. For the industry, the message was clear: Gökberk prioritized Özge above his reputation, above his exhaustion, and above the protocols of his stardom. As dawn broke over Istanbul, painting the sky in hues of gray and violet, there was still no official statement. The doctors maintained their professional secrecy, insisting they would speak only when results were conclusive. But the silence from the medical team contrasted sharply with the noise of the heart. As we close this chapter, thousands of people remain online, compulsively refreshing their feeds, hoping for good news. But perhaps the most important news has already been delivered, not in words but in action. We saw a man run. We saw a man wait. And in that running and waiting, we saw a bond that defies definition. What do you think is next for these two? Is this the turning point that fans have been predicting? We will be here, monitoring every update, ready to bring you the truth as it unfolds. Thank you for trusting whatever you need with your time tonight. If this story moved you, please leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments. We read every single one. And do not forget to subscribe and hit that bell icon. For those who want to walk this journey with us even closer, the join button is waiting. Stay safe, hold your loved ones close, and remember, we are here for whatever you need. Good night.